Yeah, it began at 2017, somewhere in March, April, I think. So it was a message or a letter that informed me that they were doing an audit of myself, of my company, Tankers IT, and any potential other business. So everything, in short. And the years they were focusing on was 2014, 15, and 16. So they started this audit in 2017, and it was ongoing for the whole year. And they came to a final decision from the tax department in the early 2018, in February or March, somewhere. But I didn't get any. I didn't get their decision, their preliminary decision at that time. They kept it secret or hidden, so I didn't get any response whatsoever when I was asking how things are going or anything, because they were, as I know now, afterwards, they were. They requested to do something. I don't know what that is in English actually. Betalningssäkring. It's when they secure funding for a potential future tax payment. So they knew they were gonna charge me a really high tax. So to ensure I could pay that tax, they wanted to save or secure funds beforehand. So what it means in practice is that they unannounced show up at your door, and in our case it was, I think, 5 people that showed up outside our door at our apartment. Most of them from tax department, and they did a total audit of everything, also our physical things in the apartment, like televisions, computer, what I had in my pockets, cash, everything. They also took everything that was on my private account, and they took also half of what was on my shared account with my wife. And they also secured all my shares in my company. They even put the dog's name on the form. So they really put everything on the document, value and description, to understand my worth, how much I had. And privately, I actually had roughly, including the part of the flat, the apartment that we were renting, or that we owned, I had roughly about 1 million Swedish crowns, or 100,000 euro or so. And the amount that they were supposed to collect from me, that came like from clear sky, from nowhere, suddenly the amount was 10 million Swedish crowns, which is just ridiculous. I was expecting something like 1, maybe 1.5 million. So 10 million was unthinkable. I had no idea how they could end up on such a ridiculous amount of tax. And unfortunately, they did not even have the details, the documents that was supporting any of this. They are supposed to bring it, but there was a misunderstanding between, in this case, Skatteverket and Kronofogden, the 2 Swedish authorities that was involved with this activity. So none of them had any background material to why they were doing this, securing funds for that large amount of 10 million. So without having an explanation to why, they simply just wanted to take stuff that was worth a total of 10 million, and I had in total just about 1 million. So the only thing that saved me in that situation is that by taking them to all of my facilities in my company, Dunkers IT, I was able to value the company at 9 million. They were okay with a valuation of 9 million for the company. So by taking all my shares in my own company, they had successfully secured these 10 million Swedish crowns for a possible future payment. And this was the start of the process, I would say, because the audit ended quite nicely. The final email before this happened was very friendly. It was just a small question about something ridiculous, like it was like a storage facility, small storage I had from a long time ago. They were just wondering some question if it was private or if it was company, and it's a small amount of money, so it had no real, it wasn't that important. So I felt like, okay, if that's all they was wondering, then it can't be that bad. And also they ended the email with something like, Happy New Year or something. Like it was a friendly tone in the email. So we didn't expect anything. Nothing bad, nothing like this. So when they came to our door and wanted to secure 10 million, it was really, out of the blue. We had no idea what was coming. And ever since that time, it's been like time after time, like, well, this is as worse as it gets. From now, it's just gonna, they're gonna sort out and understand that this doesn't make sense. And they will understand when I appeal to Förvaltningsrätten, the first administrative court. And when they also decided on the same decision as the tax department, I thought like, well, that was unexpected, but definitely the administrative court of appeal, the next level, the next instance, they are going to understand, because they are real lawyers and people that actually know stuff. So they will understand that this doesn't make sense. None of the calculations from the tax department make sense. They can't explain for more than 10 million Swedish crowns. They don't have an explanation how I got that Bitcoin, just that I probably got it somehow, just as a gift for free, or I found it somewhere, or I don't know. But they refuse to accept that I paid something for those Bitcoins. And they also don't have an answer to what did I spend those 10 million in cash, Swedish crown in cash, that I have proof that I've taken from the ATMs. They don't have an answer to what that was used for either. They don't care to explain neither where my Bitcoin came from or what I used my cash for if I didn't use them to buy the Bitcoin. They didn't have to, because in Sweden, the way in the administrative courts is that you, being charged for something, you are the one that has to prove to be innocent, instead of vice versa, that is the usual case, that you are innocent until proven guilty. But in these administrative courts of Sweden, it's the other way around. So they can say anything, more or less. They can claim that you have done anything whatsoever, and you have to prove that you did not do that. And it's really hard to prove not doing things. If they claim that I found the Bitcoin on the street and that I dig down the cash or put it on fire, how can I prove that I did not do that? It's really hard. And it showed up in all the courts that, they went with the story of the tax department. That somehow I magically got bitcoins at the value of 10 million Swedish crowns, and that I spent the cash for the equal amount on something that is hidden somewhere, or that it disappeared or whatever, but it's not there anyway. So it's very frustrating because it doesn't make sense. Nowhere in this whole process that took several years, it sounds like this is now just a matter of a few weeks, but we're talking about, this started 2017, and I got the ruling in the end of 2021. So that's like 4 years. So 4 years of my life I've spent just fighting nonsense, ridiculous accusations that I was sure in the beginning that at some point someone is going to have to think about this and understand that this doesn't make any sense. Nothing of this makes sense. But no one did. Not at the tax department, not at the administrative court, not at the administrative court of appeal, and at the high administrative court I got the decision just a couple of weeks ago that they decided not to take up this case, which was actually expected. They only bring up, I think it's 1 or 2% of the cases that, well, is appealed to high administrative court. So it was a really small chance to get a final, well, maybe honest trial. But now it's settled. They are not going to accept the appeal to high administrative court. And that means that the ruling from the administrative court of appeal is the one that is now the final decision. So it is what it is. According to every administrative court and the tax department, trading on local Bitcoin, where the platform I was using for trading at that time, is considered running a business, like you're running. You're running a business, and you should be charged taxes as if you are running a business. So that's one part of this. It's the taxation. If it should be as a capital gain, which is taxed with about 30%, or if it's a business that you have then the taxes is roughly about 60%. So that's one part of it, if it should be business or if it should be capital gain. The other part is my cash purchase of Bitcoin. And on top of those two, they add this like a penalty. So whatever they increase the taxes with, they add additional 40% on top of that. And that is a penalty that they add on top of everything else. So in total, for me, it becomes a ridiculous amount. In total, between the years of 2014 and 2019, I pay more than 200% taxes for that whole period of time. Looking specifically at the years of 2014 to 2016, it's closer to 400%, which is even more ridiculous. So for each 1 Swedish crown I earn, they want me to pay 4 Swedish crowns for those years, which is just, it doesn't make any sense. And once again, this is not to make more money go into the system, because I don't have this money. I mean, you can charge someone that is a millionaire or has a lot of, I don't know, successful companies or a lot of money. If you charge them taxes, they are going to have to pay. But if you charge someone who is almost broke to start with, it doesn't make any sense. The only thing that's happening is that you end up with a debt collector, and you are not allowed to start businesses, you are not allowed to get engaged in companies, they are taking away your possibilities to earn money and pay taxes. So the end result is just negative or bad for everyone. not a single Swedish crown is entering the system now because I'm put on hold. In October last year, 2021, we decided to move to Malta, to Gozo, the island where we are now. And that was partly because the debt collector in Sweden more or less forced me to sell the apartment that I owned half of the apartment. So that was the background to why we sold the apartment. And when we thought about finding another apartment in Köping or somewhere else in Sweden, we thought, well, this is our chance. Do we really want to stay in Sweden after everything that happened the last 5 years? Or do we want to find our place somewhere else? So we started looking at different locations, and it was my wife that found Gozo and started showing me photos and videos from this place. So we decided to give it a try to move here. So we packed the car with everything we had, and we left Sweden on the 1st of October 2021 and drove through all of Europe. And with the help of some ferries, we got all the way to Gozo. And why I start here is because it was when we lived here for roughly a month, in November already, I got the information both about the hearing in the Administrative Court of Appeal that we requested to have. And also I got the information that the police investigation about, criminal charges for financial crimes was also ongoing. And they wanted to have a questioning with me. So we arranged for a journey to Sweden where I could do both of these things. So it was a journey where I went more or less one day for the hearing in the Administrative Court of Appeal, and the day after or so I went to the questioning with the, I don't know exactly, but she was working with the Skatteverket, with tax department, but for the financial crime section or something like that. So it was about allegations for the allegations for financial crime. So anyway, I was on this hearing first with the Administrative Court of Appeal. I think it went very well. My lawyer said it went very well. It felt like a good hearing. But what I heard is also that usually the decision has already been made. So this is more like a formal, you have the right to request to have a hearing in your case, but usually it's not what's going to affect the outcome. But at least it's a chance for you to express yourself, to say your version, how this all went actually in the reality, how the real story is. And even if it doesn't change the outcome, which it didn't in my case as well, at least it's a chance to talk directly to some kind of state court system. And it's the only chance I get to see them as well, because during the whole process I never saw any of the people from the tax department. It's so unpersonal. I'm just a number on a paper for them. They never meet me, they don't know my background, they don't care about my background, because that's not what they are working on. They are working on this specific case about these specific years, and if it should or should not be a matter of business versus capital gain or whatever the case is. A few days later, I went for this other questioning with this police, you could say. First of all, I met up with my defense lawyer. It's another lawyer in these kind of criminal charges. And we went to this location. There was a policeman there that swabbed the inside of my cheeks to make sure they had my DNA. They need to have that for, I guess, every case that potentially could end up in, like a prison charge. It's the way it's done, apparently. And then the questioning started, and it went on for, I think, 3 or 4 hours, at least. Well, many hours. And the background to why this became a criminal charge is that as soon as what you're doing is not capital gain, but a business, you have totally different rules that applies. First of all, the demands of your documentation of everything you do, like when you buy something, when you sell something, when you the bookkeeping requirements, they are simply not there when you do capital gain trades. But as soon as it turns into business, according to the tax department, suddenly there is a requirement that is way higher on the documentation and on the bookkeeping. Yeah, that's also the explanation on why they did not allow my cash purchases. Because when the requirements of the documentation gets higher, also the requirements if you do cash purchase becomes higher as well. So in that way, these two things I mentioned, one about buying Bitcoin using cash, and the other one being if it should be capital gain or if it should be a business operation, they are tied together in the sense that as soon as they consider it to be business, your requirement for documentation increases a lot, and then suddenly all your cash payments are no longer valid. So whatever could be valid when you calculate capital gain suddenly becomes invalid because the requirement of documentation is way higher. The standard of documentation has to be higher if you are running a business. So that's how they tie together. But back to the criminal charges, this has been with the attorney, I guess, for many years now. They simply waited, I think, for the ruling from the administrative court system. And now when that was more or less done, they wanted to proceed with the criminal charges and see if they could try that in court as well, the criminal court. But I still don't know if they will actually bring it to court or not. I probably will know within a few months. Something that disturbs me a lot is how much money has been spent on these processes the last 5-6 years. And just as an example on that, when we had a hearing in the Administrative Court of Appeal, tax department showed up with 6 people at a hearing, and that is really not common. My lawyer said that the most there have been before when they've been to that court is 3 people, and that is when it's a big case. 6 people, the court did not even handle that many people. There was only 5 chairs on that side of the court, so one of them actually had to sit on the bench and was not allowed to take part of the actual discussions. So it was unprecedented that they show up with that many people for just a hearing. So it shows how very important this case is for them, and how much they are spending on it and willing to spend on it. Another thing is when we now got the preliminary or the research from the investigation about the criminal charges. It was roughly between 2,000 and 3,000 pages. I mean, that's a lot of material that someone put together. And with taxpayers' money. For what? I mean, it's not generating any more money to the government, to the state, to the tax department. It only costs money. So it's purely of the interest of the tax department themselves. Or if it comes from above them, I don't know if it comes from higher. But regardless, it's purely that they want to start a fight, a war with cryptocurrencies, with Bitcoin. And they are willing to spend any amount of money on it. They don't care. And it has nothing to do for the better of the people or the better of the Swedes. This is just a matter of the authorities, the government, the state wanting to fight Bitcoin. Make an example on don't get into crypto. Look at these companies, look at these people. You might end up as them. Better do something else, do something normal. Don't get into crypto. That's the message I hear loud and clear from the Swedish government, and as many others, that's the reason why we decide to move somewhere else. Because you can't change that. It's much easier to change your location, just move to another place rather than trying to change the government way of looking at crypto, looking at Bitcoin. Yeah, so that's something I feel I wanted to add to the story about the criminal charges. And we'll know, as I mentioned, I'll get a decision within a few months if they will bring this to court or not. If they bring it to court, there can, as I see it, as I understand it, it can go two ways. Because there has been so many years since this time, there can either go one way or the other. Either I get freed, which I hope, of course, and then I can continue living my life. The other possible ending is that I get prison time, and which is fucked up, because the only thing I did was to sell Bitcoins to Swedes. I helped a few thousand Swedes to buy their first Bitcoin in 2014 to 2016. And for that, I might risk to go to jail 2023. And that's just how fucked up Sweden is nowadays.